honored to be here and excited to talk to you guys about visualization, the future of visualization, and kind of how we work with NDOT. As Kevin mentioned, I'm Sam Lytle with Civil FX, and I'll let Nick Johnson introduce himself and take it from here.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having us out here. We're going to walk through a number of things today. I think Sam's really going to get into the technical aspects of the models and things that he builds, and then I'm going to give a little bit different perspective. As an owner and as a user, how we use it, how we benefit from it. I'll give you a lot of examples, and so on and so forth. So let me make sure. There we go, I got this figured out. I apologize in advance if some of the text is off. We uploaded it, changed everything, so in like 5 minutes I try to correct a lot of stuff. But anyways, so as you can see, you have the AASHTO logo up there, the Innovation Initiative. So I think about 4 years ago, we started doing a lot of the VR, 3D modeling for a specific project. And we had so much success with it, we submitted an application to the AII, some of the new innovative things that we're using on projects, and it was awarded. So, and really what that is, if you guys aren't familiar with it, some sort of technology innovation that the agency or DOT is doing out there, that AASHTO helps support. We get out, we do a lot of outreach, we help other agencies or whomever in the industry, show them the successes we have, and then get folks, off the ground running with some of these things should they choose to use. So really what we're looking at here today is this interactive visualization, VR, 3D models, so on and so forth. For us, we have, and I saw a bunch of presentations today. I mean, we had paving, I saw things on training and such. So our biggest thing that we use it for is public outreach. And I know Cameron had talked a little bit earlier, and he actually had a really good slide at the beginning of his presentation. Showed this big room with all these boards around it, with 2D maps and things like that. For us that are engineers, we can walk right up to it and figure out what's going on, and we can see it. But about 99% of the world, the people who show up to these meetings, the people who visit our website, the people who want to know how they're impacted or what's going on, they don't understand that very well. And it takes a lot of effort to sit down and go to each board and point it out. So we start thinking, how can we better educate the public? How can we better educate our stakeholders, and so they understand what we're doing? So one thought is, well, what's a better way than then being able to experience the project before it's even built, as an education tool, as an outreach tool. And so that's what we've done here, or I should say, what Sam has helped or has built, and that we've been able to utilize to help educate folks on there. So really, our goals and objectives, from the department standpoint, is just that. How do we get the word out on these projects? How do people how do we better communicate with them, help them understand it, and more importantly, educate them on that. From the AASHTO perspective, it's getting out and doing just this. Let everybody know what we're doing. If you are an agency or an owner, how can we help you utilize some of these same technologies for your purposes? And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sam here for a little bit to talk about the technical piece, and I'll come back.
All right, thanks, Nick. So I want to give a little more detailed background, kind of where I came from and how Nick and I came to be on the same stage together. So I went to school at UNLV in Las Vegas, and during this time I started messing around with some 3D modeling using tools like SketchUp or Revit, and I kind of fell in love with it, even though I was going to school in civil engineering. And I was fortunate, this was kind of the end of the recession in 2009, 2010. I was fortunate to get offered a position at NDOT as a rotating engineer. And so in early 2010, I started there as a rotating engineer. And for those not familiar with that program, they move you to different divisions, kind of in an effort to train you and prepare you hopefully for future management in the department. And so I was doing a rotation in roadway, and a project manager approached me and he said, hey, we have this project. It's kind of a system-to-system interchange. There's some conflicts with the bridge piers and this high-pressure gas line. And it's really hard for us to communicate what's going on We know you've done some 3D modeling. Is there any way you could generate something for us to take to this meeting and do this? So this is about 8 years ago. This is, I think, in 2011. And I said, sure, I'd love to. I love that stuff. And turns out that it was an effective thing, and turns out that that guy was Nick Johnson back before, while he was just a lowly project management before he was running the place. And so another project manager, Adam Searcy, heard about that, and he said, hey, I have a divergent diamond, and those are really confusing and hard to explain. Can you develop an animation for that? I said, sure, I'll try. And I had a free 30-day trial of the software that I was using, and so within that 30 days, I think I did 3 different quick models for these project managers, and they kept saying things like, wow, we used to spend all this money making these animations, and now you just did it really quick. And I was like, man, that's like as much as I make in a whole year. Maybe there's a business opportunity there. So I stuck in NDOT long enough that I wanted to get my engineering license. And as Kevin mentioned, I worked at Kevin Warren for a year. But in 2014, I did finally leave and start Civil FX, which would be a visualization firm focusing on civil visualization, a lot of transportation in that as well. And so one of the things while I was in NDOT that I envisioned, I was playing this game with my son. He was probably 2 or 3 at the time, and I was trying to get him out of my hair. So I pulled up a game online that I found, and it was a Wreck-It Ralph racing game. And he's playing this game in a browser, and I started looking at it and thinking about it, and I was like, you know, there's not that much difference between these go-karts racing on this road as there is the roads that we're trying to communicate. Why can't we make this more interactive? Why can't we make this something as accessible as this game that I just pulled out for my son really quickly? And so the gears, not only of visualization, but of interactive visualization, were turning early on, about 7 or 8 years ago when I started at NDOT. So when I started Civil FX, things were slow for the first year or so, but we were able to be part of the design build team for Project Neon. It was mentioned, which is the largest infrastructure project in Nevada's history. It's over $1 billion when they include the right-of-way costs, and it's almost done now. But they rebuilt a lot of I-15 and some of the spaghetti bowl in the busy stretch of highway in Nevada. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
It's usually
Doing good.
It's on the details. So we get on with this design build team as the visualization lead, Civil FX, which I say we, basically me and a laptop, and then I had some contractors. And we had this budget that I felt big enough that I was like, maybe this is the project that we can do interactively. And I have one of my brothers he's in the video game industry, and I felt like I had enough connections and people with talent that we could kind of turn Project Neon into a video game. And so that's kind of what we did. I presented it to them, and I think they were kind of like, who is this guy and what is he talking about? But they were just like, sure, why not? And we figured it out, and we presented it, and fortunately, the department was able to give us a lot of freedom and leeway in that, and the result is kind of what we're sharing today, which is we've kind of reimagined what public outreach can be. We've been able to, at Civil FX, we've been able to be a part of a lot of the amazing projects that NDOT has done, and a lot of those have involved this interactive visualization. So as I focused my entire career on 3D visualization over nearly the past decade, I thought a lot about where it is, where it has been, where it is now, and where it's going, and how we have been working at Civil FX and a lot specifically with NDOT on these projects to kind of push it forward into the future. And that's kind of the breakdown of how I'm going to talk through this. So the first topic is interactivity. So, you know, Nick mentioned how public meetings, especially in the past, you'd go and there would be large roll plots on the walls, schematics, things that may be difficult to understand. The evolution of that was in the 80s, 90s, and even maybe 20 years ago, you see some simple wireframe 3D renderings right out of AutoCAD or out of MicroStation inroads. And then eventually they were a little bit more textured, but those early renders, even some of the renders today, they take a really long time to develop. If you're using something like 3ds Max or V-Ray, you could spend a whole week with a simple render farm to develop a good rendering. And so that's how it's been traditionally. Now you're able to use real-time interactive graphics using game engines. Cameron, I think you guys have used Unreal Engine. A lot of others have used things like Lumion. We've been using a lot of Unity 3D, and this allows you to view the project in real time and be able to move around without going through the process of doing those expensive and time-intensive renderings. And the graphic quality has continued to improve as the industry has improved as well. The future, I think, will look like multi-touch, real-time navigation, not just using PCs, but on any device. And so some of the demonstrations that I'll show you, you'll be able to do those not just using a graphics card like you have to use now, but hopefully on your mobile device, on your iPad. All right, so this is our big TV. We actually have two of them now. It's developing personality. We call it BK. It stands for Big Kiosk. And it's a 55-inch 4K touchscreen. You have to kind of special order these. The cost has gone down quite a bit. But we have this in conjunction with a gaming computer, and we take these to a lot of these public meetings that we do, not only for NDOT, but for other local public agencies. We develop this interactive 3D model. We take it there, and using the touchscreen, you're able to navigate in real time. It's been very effective in getting public feedback. We still have those roll plots on the walls, but we found that we have these big touchscreen TVs. They garner a lot of attention. There's big groups that crowd around these big TVs. So this is the accessibility slide, and this is where I just showed that big kiosk, that big TV, and I've gotten in the habit of driving that around not only to public meetings, but also to conferences all over the Southwest over the past couple of years. And the first one that we have, it's 130 pounds almost, and the stand is quite a sturdy stand as well. And it's not easy to lug around. And so I'm hoping that the accessibility will continue to improve. A quick story on that. So in Las Vegas, if you've been there, it's pretty spread out. In the public meetings that we go to, no matter what the venue is, you can usually pull up pick up in the parking lot, maybe to the handicap area, unload things. We have parts of unload them on, push them into the thing, and we're good to go. So I had a request to go to downtown LA in April. So I went down there to give some presentations to some engineering firms. And when I was doing my planning for it, I kind of planned how I do for Las Vegas, where I was like, I looked at my GPS. It was like a 4.5-hour drive from where I live. And so I said, okay, I'll get there 15 minutes early. I'll back my truck up to the office. I'll unload it. I'll set it up, and it'll be good to go. If any of you have been to downtown LA, you may know where this is going. Mm-hmm. So I get there, and I also planned to bring some sandwiches this was like a lunch and learn venue. And so I get there about 15 minutes like my GPS said, and I went to pick up my sandwiches, and I realized that I had to go park down the block in a parking garage, go up to the top level because I didn't have a compact car. It's parking anywhere other than the top level. Park in the parking garage, walk all the way down, get my sandwiches, go back to my pickup truck, go to a different parking garage, meet a friend that's there, get all my equipment, drive it up, or push it up a hill about a half mile to the venue. And long story short, we were about a half hour late and completely covered in sweat by the time we got there. And so a problem that I thought about a lot is we have this wonderful kiosk. When you're at a public meeting, there's no better way to see these 3D models that we made. But it's not a good long-term solution. It's not something that's accessible to everyone. So how do we get it into more hands? Cameron did a wonderful presentation about how they kind of dealt with that same question. How can we make it so as many people as possible can not just see these things? We use YouTube, we use the news media when possible, we use social media, but to interact with these interactive applications that we're building. And so in the past, it was these image renders and video animations that I talked about. Right now, it's the PC applications and the kiosks. We've also done some virtual reality and driving simulators that have been very effective at getting public engagement. And we'll be at the open house later tonight where some of you guys can try some of the virtual reality and interactive applications that we built. And that's kind of where it is now. In the future, I think it's going to be more like what Cameron showed. It's going to be interactive on the web, where you can go there and you can interact with the project directly. And we've done some testing with that as well, where you're able to render the 360 views, and you're able to see a lot of the project. In the future, hopefully, you'll be able to see the full project, with the traffic moving, the trees moving, everything like you do in our PC builds. And the same with mobile. This is just a screen capture of kind of our own 360 viewer that we've been building in-house. We're able to look around, click on different themes. You can switch between existing and proposed. You can also move around on the map as well. So this is published. Once we have that 3D model in our, like I said, we use Unity most often. You're able to publish it out to something like this. All right, the next area where we're pushing into the future of 3D visualization is in quality. And this is something kind of like the rising tide raises all ships. You know, as we kind of dovetail on the video game industry and the visual effects industry, the technology and the talent and the hardware, they're all improving together, and we're able to take advantage of those improvements. In the past, there would be little to no context, maybe some basic texturing. I'm sure you guys have seen those renderings of 20 or 30 years ago, where we were just grateful to see something in 3D. We didn't care if there were buildings in there at all. Now the buildings, they're much more high quality. We're able to add things like trees with leaves blowing. Something that we add sometimes just for fun is AC fans spinning, so when you're driving over, it makes it a little bit more realistic. The terrain, the photogrammetry that they use is higher resolution. We like those 6-inch resolution aerials and dens. And then the texturing is even more high quality. And this is a little short video from Tropicana. This is an NDOT project. This one corner over here is the T-Mobile Arena where the Golden Knights play, and over in the other quadrant is where they're building the Raiders Stadium. So this is an area of high public interest, not just for the public, but for the stakeholders and business owners. When you think about it, if you're going to meet with stakeholders, either through a public hearing or a one-on-one meeting, if you go there, let's say that we're meeting either with Home 2 Suites down here on the left, or In-N-Out Burger up there on the top left, if you go there and the building looks terrible, you know, that's the first impression that they're going to see, is that you don't even care about the building they're being impacted. And so if you have a good representation of the building, you're already starting on the right foot. We found that in a lot of projects. And just because you can make buildings, you know, or just because you should, doesn't mean that you always can. And so there are budget restraints, and sometimes you have to pick and choose. Okay, we know that these are high interest areas that we want to use our budget on, and the buildings in the distance, they sometimes are just simple shapes. But because of the advances in software and hardware and talent, we are able to continue to move this until in the future, hopefully we'll have as high quality as we see in the AAA video game titles and the movies that we watch. Phasing. So I want to use this opportunity to talk a little bit about our workflow. So our goal most often is to build a realistic, interactive 3D model of the project. The way we do that is, the first step is we get the aerials and the terrain from the project. They've had it flown, because that's going to give us the highest resolution. That's kind of our base map. The problem with that is those aerials, they have the flat cars that you've seen. And so we actually have artists or interns, sometimes interns, so it's kind of menial work, that they Photoshop and they clean it up and they make that our nice base map. And that's where everything starts. We then build, most often, an existing model. So even if the bridges are going to be removed, we still model them. If there's a section of roadway, we still model it. We want a good existing model. We start modeling the buildings, the trees. We have artists that focus almost exclusively on building this existing context so that we can make it as realistic as possible. The next thing is we start getting the CAD files from the designers. We're not designers ourselves, but we work closely with the CAD, either the microstation operator or the civil 3D operator. We get those files. For those that are used to using those, the way that we like, the format that we use most often is we like them to export it to feature lines and triangles. And when model the surfaces using something called Rhino 3D. Sometimes we use 3ds Max. So we start building that proposed model, and then we bring it in, we chop up the existing model, and we have the proposed existing model in the same space, in the same geolocation. And then we have a script where we can phase those. You'll see in just a second what that means. And so in the past, you were just focusing on getting just the proposed. You just want to show what your project was. Now we're able to do existing versus proposed. But in the future, I think we'll see more, not just existing versus proposed, but we'll see multiple phases. We did this on an NDOT project called Symposium, where there was 3 prominent phases, and we had them all modeled. And not only could you switch them interactively, and I'll have this at our open house tonight, but you could also use a shader so that it would highlight different phases and let you know which ones they were. One thing that I don't have on here, but I think will be crucial in the future, is that as we continue to improve, is alternatives, showing various alternatives, depending on what phase the visualization team gets involved in the project. And then also MOT, or maintenance of traffic. We've done some of that on Project Neon, where we're actually showing some closures. Once you have that investment of that 3D model, adding things like traffic closures and construction phasing is just a small percentage to the additional budget. This is a project on Las Vegas Boulevard. We actually developed this in pursuit of the project for a proposal, but we were showing how you can show a ton of different options really quickly, and this is rendered from an interactive model that we have built, where you can just really quickly switch between all of those options. There was 9 different ones. So traffic, this is the area where I think is there's most potential and is most exciting, especially for us and our team. So in the past, if any of you have done this, maybe you just had cars there and you were taking a simple image render. If you were doing animation, it was probably keyframe animated. What that means is you were placing the car, moving 2 seconds and placing it again, and then you keep doing that, which is a very tedious process. And the other issue is if you're doing an interactive presentation, let's say that you keyframe 2 minutes of animation. If you're doing an interactive presentation, the traffic's all going to reset every 2 minutes, which is very distracting. And so we needed a better system for interactive visualization. So our first step on Project Neon was we developed a system where it was basically just free-flowing traffic. Just freeway projects, and so cars were just running all the time. When it was an intersection, we have to choose. Our cars can be going this way or this way. If they weren't going, whichever way they weren't going, we would just have parked cars at the intersection. And those cars, if we had a 3-hour public meeting, they were waiting at that intersection for 3 hours. Eventually, we made it where it was adjustable, where you can change how many cars there were, but they were still just free flowing. Well, now the future and what we're trying to push into is a smart traffic system and importing VisSim, AIM-SUN, Synchro simulated traffic, so that we can get the actual representation. And there are a couple different reasons why you would import VisSim traffic. One of them, and we've used this on this Tropicana project that I was talking about, is that part of the project manager's job is to show why this project is being built. And if you can show in the 3D model, look, the traffic is really bad. In that project, we have existing no-fill, which is a 2040 VisSim simulation. It says that the traffic is terrible, the queues are extended for a very long time, but then you switch to the proposed and the traffic is much more free-flowing. So not only are you using the 3D model for communication of the project and the design intent, but you're also using it to show why the project needs to be built in the first place and why the traffic congestion will be even worse. We've also had requests just to put VisSim traffic simulation, just so that the traffic looks natural. Now we've built our own we built our own smart traffic system. So over here on the left, we have VisSim, we did this test. On the right, we have our own smart traffic system that we're developing in-house. And we were surprised to see how similar they looked aesthetically, especially from a distance like you look in these. Do that one more time. This is a diverging diamond project that we've been working on in Alaska, actually in Anchorage. And so the smart traffic system that we're developing is getting more and more sophisticated with every project that we work on. All right, so overall, I often think about the purpose of why we even do this. Why does a department invest money in doing visualization when in the past they may not have done? They built the project just fine without any visualization. We hear that from time to time, especially from the old timers. Why do we need this now? We've never used it before. In the past, the purpose was we just wanted basic design communication. We just wanted to get everyone on the same page. We just wanted to speak to those people that may not have the engineers' brain power to take that design and visualize it in 3D like a lot of engineers can do. Now we're able to do accurate design communication where we're actually using the CAD files, and we're even doing some basic review and coordination. One thing that we've done a lot, especially the last year, is we've worked directly with landscape architects where they're constantly changing things, and they'll just send those files to us. They'll send the texturing files, they'll send us their SketchUp files, we'll drop them in, they'll make renders, they'll make changes, and there's a lot of iteration. And I think as we move to the future, that's going to be an integral part of this whole process, is we make a good 3D model with all of this actual data, and we can work and we can use it as a design tool, so that by the time the design is done, or by the time we're ready to start talking about it with the public, we've been using this 3D model already internally. And I think that's where the future of visualization is going to be. It's going to be things like constructability and design coordination and review. We use things like PDF and Bluebeam to review a lot, but in the future, maybe that review can all be done in a 3D model that everyone has access to. So with that, I'm going to turn the time back to Nick.
All right, well, I'm gonna play a video for you guys. You guys have heard about this project that we did in Las Vegas, Project Neon. We actually put this together as starting this AASHTO initiative here, but just kind of shows a public meeting with some of the folks that are there, the TV that Sam had set up with interactive driving simulators, how we've gone about educating folks and showing. Is there volume on this? I don't know if they have it in the back there. She just left.
Maybe you can come back to the slide.
I can come back at the end, that's fine, we can go back, we can skip ahead here. But I'll jump into why. So this was a graphic we put together, that we found a few years ago, just on demographics. And this is just showing the workplace, and I think this extends far beyond the workplace. But if you see up there, millennials are getting larger and larger in the workplace. What does that mean? Everything, communication is done right here. It's done right here, it's done on computers, it's done with technology. So I'm thinking, how can I communicate with those folks in a way that they get it? And, even with the millennials themselves, I think technology, the way it's being used by other generations, I think everybody's using phones, smartphones, computers, and things like that. So again, how do we communicate to these folks? How do we make it so that they understand, become educated, and use it, and really how do you experience it? How do you pick up that phone, go to a website, pan around like camera show, or pick up that phone, start clicking on future traffic, proposed conditions, existing conditions, and be able to go back and forth interactively, or even to some degree we posted YouTube videos. If you have Oculus goggles, it's even better, but you can sit there and do virtual reality, 3D, turn it up there, around, pan, get whatever perspective you want. What are the ways, how do we use that technology to communicate with these folks? So, really, it's fast, it's mobile friendly, it's right there, you can experience it. And that's the point. So some of the benefits that I'll talk about. I'll give you a quick story. We're doing an EIS in Reno. And part of this project we're building adjacent to we call the Reno Sparks Indian Colony, but basically a Native American community and environmental justice area. Early on in the project, I showed up to do a public presentation just for that community. And before I even walked in the door, that whole community was up in arms over this project. They were ready to take me out on the street and have it with, and it was like that the whole meeting. At the time, we didn't have enough developed yet, and we had Sam on board, contract with Sam, to really go through and do some of the things that we're talking about. We went back 8-9 months later, same group of folks, This time, we had the big touchscreen TV, and we showed up there. And usually when we do our public meetings or hearings, we usually give it about an hour for people to go around, look at the boards, talk to the department staff, so on and so forth, and then give a formal presentation. Well, this touchscreen TV we had there, saying, 40, 50 people gathered around this TV. As we panned around, showed the location, we could go to views from their backyard, show them. I even had a gentleman who was very concerned about, part of their culture, praying in the morning when the sun comes up. The sound walls, adjacent to the freeway, that's gonna, create a shadow over his, back fence, and you have to do that later in the day. We just changed the time of day, and you can see where the shadows are. The point being is everybody crowded around this thing, we went through it. By the time we got to a presentation, like 70% of the people left. They were okay with what we were doing. But it's all because they could, rather than looking at a 2D map, they could come in now and actually we could give them an interactive experience. They could touch it, they could move it around, they could see it from their perspective of the world, and it helped them understand what we were doing and calm that group down very, very quickly. Some other examples on that Project Neon. There was a McDonald's just off the freeway. That property owner was very angry with us, thinking that nobody was going to be able to see the golden arches anymore when they drove down I-15, and they didn't know where to get off and how to get there. We said, come down to our project office. In the project office, we had a touchscreen TV set up. He came down, we sat down, we put him in a car's perspective. At any point along the interstate there, panning over to see, and you could see those golden arches from a mile away, and you knew exactly where to go. Instantaneously, that calmed him down. He was good, never heard from him again. So this type of technology has allowed us to really mitigate a risk, especially from a public perception standpoint. Sam showed the phasing option when he's talking about decision making, being able to show up. I can just open my laptop and boom, 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 boom. Here's a whole bunch of different options. When you're in the NEPA process, going through that. It gives you a lot of flexibility to demonstrate the different options and come to decisions very, very quickly. So there is a number of benefits, and I think just in general, it's given the times. We're probably still behind the times in terms of technology, but it's just a step forward and having us, keep up with the rest of the world and what's going on. All right, so this is, part of this, we also try to give some of the owners or agencies a sense of what type of investment is this for a project. Now, again, back to that project, we spent close to $1 billion on that project. And I think in this case, for all the modeling, and the modeling went, just beyond doing a 3D model. I think we spent about $250,000. That $250,000 we spent on this, we got back tenfold. It was a tremendous success. And that covered the, virtual reality, doing virtual helicopter rides. You can pan around the whole thing. Driving simulators, like Sam said, you basically set it up like a video game. You can come in with a driving simulator, people can drive the costume. So if they couldn't figure it out from a 3D model, now here you go, drive it. It's not even built yet, but now you can figure out your way to work or whatever, and you can drive it before it's even in place. Interactive touchscreen TV. We even did traffic control. So our design build contract, when that got laid out, Sam dropped it in the model. We were creating videos. We were putting those out on the website. They were being posted on the web app. Even the media down there on the TV stations were using these things to show people how to get around during construction. So there was a lot of uses that we got out of that money. Now it is scalable, so it all depends on how elaborate you want to get into these models and how much detail you want to put in. If you just want some block buildings and roadway, you could probably do it really cheap, especially if you're in the concept level and you just want showcasing. But if you want to detail out every little thing, it's going to cost you some more money. Even in Reno, we had a casino right next to the freeway there that had big electronics, billboard sign. Even in the model, it was changing advertisements and things like that. So that's the type of detail you can get to if you really, really want to do it. And I think, kind of to wrap this up and we'll open it up, I know one of the things that we've done as part of the AASHTO initiative is also develop a scope of services, for owners and agencies. So if they want to do this type of thing, we develop it, we post it on the website, so they can go through a procurement to get folks, to get different companies on to do this type of work, and then, just continue this outreach to the industry and some benefits we've had, and, if we have any new advances of that, just continue to communicate that to everybody. And I think Sam is working on some other things as well.
I just appreciate Nick and his politically correct explanation of the outreach on Project Neon, and using the example of McDonald's. The most common example was the mini strip clubs that are right across there that were thinking that we were going to block the view of their billboards and their signage, and so effective for a lot of uses. So yeah, I mean, we're going to continue to push the technology with each new project that we get. A lot of them, which I'm sure will be with the Nevada Department of Transportation and other agencies. One thing that we've started looking more into, when I worked at NDOT, I was trying to do visualization myself, and there are not a lot of good visualization tools for civil engineers. There are some, but there are different issues with each of them. And so we've started talking internally about building better visualization tools. So over the next couple of years, we're going to start developing our own tools where we integrate some of this smart traffic, the graphics, the phasing, the things that we've developed internally, and making those available to others. So that hopefully we can, as an industry, come together and improve the visualization as a whole. For a variety of reasons, visualization in infrastructure is quite a bit behind visualization in architecture. I mean, I think one of the biggest reasons is because architecture is a simple visualization problem to solve. They don't have to mess with things like terrain models or 7-mile-long corridors. Traffic, yes. But we can bridge that gap. If we're 20 years behind, maybe we can work together, and we can only be 5 or 10 years behind if we just. I think part of it too is what's acceptable in the industry. If we just keep pushing the boundaries and the quality of each new visualization that we do, we're going to work together. And like I mentioned before, the rising tide raises all boats. I think we can work together to do that. And so that's all I have. Thank you. Oh, yeah, let's try this video again.
And why did on that note another question? Is there volume?
Yeah. You mentioned future developments. How much work, if any, is going into trying to integrate these better into the tools that are used later in the design process? I mean, you said $300,000. It makes sense to wring as much use of that as possible out of, say, FEM modeling, BIM modeling later on. Now,
so are you asking how do we integrate this with design tools like AutoCAD, like Civil 3D?
Not necessarily just Civil 3D, AutoCAD, but also FEM and then plans production when it comes to it.
Where does it go after public information? Does it all just die, or can you just go back?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the ability to integrate it with Autodesk products, and that's kind of an obvious thing. Usually we build these for public outreach, but like I said, as the technology improves, hopefully there will be options to use it more. Sometimes there's some constructability things that we can do, but usually public outreach is kind of the end goal on this for now.
And I also think it depends on the situation, right? Like I was giving you those few examples, like the Golden Arches. We were well into construction, right? So we had already done a lot of public outreach, and we were continuing to do more. But that was something we were able to use kind of after the fact. And I think it also depends, if you do have claim situations or things like that. I guess it gets specific on how you can utilize it. But I think for us right now, this has been our big focus. And then we've even had discussions where, once we're done with these projects and we have these models, how can we hold on to those and maybe integrate them as we continue to, build more projects. We're not a huge state where we're putting out so many projects that they're just like back to back to back to where you have this massive model built for a whole urban area or something like that, but that could happen over the long term. And those are some of the discussions we're having now, so at least we have those base models to maybe create some efficiencies in the future when we do new projects or things like that. If that makes sense.
Let me see if that works.
All right, cool stuff, by the way. So you make a good point about the effectiveness or the power of the 3D interactive visualization for public participation. Have you had a chance or any experience to use that as a tool for the involve stakeholders before the project is finished? And is there any lesson learned that is different? Is there value to that? Instead of looking at the technology as essentially a mechanism to present a finished project, to use it interactively during the development, especially because there's so many stakeholders, like a highway construction, how many department, government, funders, politicians, you got those many people involved. What's your thought about that?
Yeah, I can tell you 2 examples right now. When we were doing the EIS in Reno, the airport there, we were making significant modifications and even removing some access points, creating a more efficient interchange. Long story short, there was some challenges with that. So we actually had some models created specific for that area with some different options that we brought into them. And we had the roll plots, and that only got us so far. You know, like I said, some people just can't see past the 2D. So we took it the next step, and we came in with some different options to work through some of those scenarios. We even created videos of driving paths in each direction. And so that helped us work through an issue to come to a decision on those. And then we have a newer project in kind of the old part of downtown Las Vegas where we have to replace a massive viaduct. And we're getting ready to kick off that with some alternatives development between replacing the viaduct or going in a trench in the ground, you know, capping it with, you know, with more open space and things like that. So we've had that, you know, we've developed those 2 now to get some stakeholder buy-in, also flush out some of the issues and concerns that, you know, some of like the city of Las Vegas, some of their elected officials and others may have with it, so that we're making sure we're going down the right path, if you will.
Yeah, in that example, those renderings were shown to the city of Las Vegas and the stakeholders long before the bill was even into the project existed. Feedback from those stakeholders. One other example from an NDOT project, this shopping canal one that I've been talking about, we built this 3D model. A lot of these projects you have to, like I mentioned, you have to have a computer with a graphics card. So we bought a graphics card for the project manager, Jeff LaRue, and he's been taking it to stakeholders like In-N-Out Burger, like T-Mobile Arena, Panorama Towers, and I think MGM, and there was some pushback on that Hacienda drop ramp. And because of that interaction with the stakeholders, they ended up making a complete change to the project early on, before it was a change order that people saw out in the field.
Yeah, I've noticed, well now at least from the major projects, we've kind of taken a standpoint, we're gonna do this on all of those major projects. And we've been starting this process earlier and earlier every single time for those specific reasons. It's so that we have something that's more than a piece of paper that we could show up and talk with stakeholders about, so they can understand what it is we're doing and try to flush as many of the issues, concerns, or try to capture the opportunities and benefits as early in the NEPA process as possible, because that's what helps you keep it going, you know. So we're doing it more and we're doing it earlier, and that's what we're starting to learn.
I have a quick question. Have you looked or had an opportunity to move these models into asset management, into an asset for the department?
We have not, and I think it kind of goes back to, you know, some of the preliminary conversations that we've had with, you know, as we continue to do more of these, you know, corridors, how do we keep them all together and continually reduce them so we have some efficiencies, and then too, you know, it's a way to, you know, visually track our assets, if you will. But we haven't even jumped into that arena yet, but I can see a tremendous opportunity there.
Yeah, I mean, currently a lot of asset management is more database stuff because you're dealing with so many assets, and we're focusing on the 3D visualization. But one similar example is the Project Neon that we've been talking about. Hewitt went and they bought a couple laptops for their construction managers out in the field, and they took them out there. And basically what we did is we slapped labels on the bridges and the walls, and so they would know, okay, this wall and this wall, they knew geospatially where they were. And so it was kind of like a little bit of a bin, but that's kind of as far as it's gotten so far. Someone was back there.
Please.
Yeah, so the question is actually follow up with like the asset management. I was just wondering on with your data, you're coming mostly from the data, from the survey data for the construction sites. Have you had to get a lot of other data, or because that can be an expensive part of the project for the visualization, or are you doing more artistic renderings so you don't have to deal with some of the higher level fidelity data in that case.
So when you say data, do you mean like LiDAR?
Well, yeah, if you had to do a LiDAR scanning
Yeah.
for a project, how hard have you had it to bring that to visualization in real time graphics? Because that's always one of the tricks here to get to
Sure.
real time graphics.
Yeah, and we've talked about this and had a lot of questions about it. A lot of the projects, especially with NDOT, they're big system-to-system projects where capturing LiDAR is not always, it's not part of the workflow from the department. We have looked into LiDAR. One of the issues we have is we build these interactive real-time models and they need to be optimized for real-time performance. And LiDAR data is very dense, even photogrammetry data, which is taking the pictures from the angles and generating a 3D mesh, like what you see on Google Earth. The mesh isn't optimized for real-time performance. And so usually the representations that you see are built from our artists, especially like the existing context, but the actual proposed stuff, it's from the actual design files as much as possible.
Yeah, so whatever the survey information is, it's gonna go into the design files first, into those 3D models, which, we'll get everything set up and then hand it over to Sam. So he's getting a design file that hopefully is representative of the appropriate survey and LiDAR information that was performed before to go into the model. If that makes sense.
So if there was any survey data or LiDAR, it would be in the pipeline before we ever got it. The designers would build that stuff, and then we get the feature lines from MicroStation engineers.
Right, so I'm also wondering where HD maps, does that help you catch up in some of that shortcomings?
What do you mean HD?
Or, well, there's a whole retinue of creation of high fidelity maps for AV car driving. It's like by here.
Right, and
different
that's something,
industries.
it's almost a different discipline than what we're doing. We're just trying to build a 3D representation of a future project to communicate it to the public. Whereas that would be more what's existing conditions, and we want to make that as accurate as possible for AVs. So it's kind of a different discipline than where we're going. Is there other questions?
I just wanted to remind everybody, the next sessions are going to start 15 minutes early, in 15 minutes. So if you want to stay and talk with these guys, feel free. But I just, if you guys want to get a cookie or whatever they're doing. Thank you.